Welcome to Cigar Church. We're excited to be here and enjoying some good cigars, digging into Scripture. Cigar Church is a place where our passion for cigars and our love for Jesus collide, and we get to do both today. We're excited about it. Thank you for joining us once again. We've had a great response. A lot of you guys are commenting. We love that. We love the interaction that we get to have with you in the comments. A lot of you guys are sharing our stuff. We love that as well. Keep doing that. It's encouragement for us. That makes us feel good about what we're doing, and it gets the word out a little bit more about Cigar Church. And really, the truth is, the reason we want you to share it is so that more people get to hear the word of God, and that's the important thing. So, you guys doing good today?
Good. I'm doing
great, man. I mean, we're here smoking cigars at Stag Lounge again in Oklahoma City, one of our favorite places. And so we're doing something a little different today. We are smoking the Carlos and Maria cigar that is made by Freud. It's a different brand. None of us have smoked this yet. We just lit them up.
Yep.
All three of us were very surprised at that first draw.
This is their first release. I have never tasted a cigar like that.
Yeah.
No idea what it is.
That is just, I'm impressed. I've had mixed feelings about Freud. They've had a couple cigars that I was like, man, this is a really good cigar.
What, the
Alter Ego? The Alter Ego, the Super Ego. They also had the, there's a couple others. Slipping my mind right now. But this is an interesting cigar. This is good. Tell us about it, Steve.
This is a Ecuadorian Habano wrapper. It's an Indonesian Sumatra binder. The tobacco, the filler, is a mixture of Dominican, Nicaraguan, and Ecuadorian. So you got the D and the N of that one. Now we added an E to you.
Yeah, Nicaraguan in it. So. Okay.
Yeah.
Medium full cigar. Very interesting.
It's smoking more medium than and it's really not. It's not really coming across full, but
still time.
That's an interesting blend.
It is.
Dominican, Nicaraguan, and Ecuadorian.
Yep.
And then what'd you say the binder was?
It is a Indonesian Sumatra.
I wonder if that's where the unique flavor. I don't know that I've ever had an Indonesian Sumatra. I probably have. Just didn't know it was Indonesian, right? Yeah. I bet that's where that unique flavor is coming from off the drop.
Yeah. This is their first release, the Amorio. Amorio? How do you say that? Amorio?
Yeah. I mean, I need readers now. My wife's been picking on me. I'm going to sit here and try and read that. Amorio, that's an O, right?
Yeah, I think
so. Great. You're going to have to do this. Are those?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
they're there.
Bring it up again. Am I the youngest, or are you the youngest?
You are the
youngest in the room.
I'm the eldest.
You're the eldest.
Sure, by sure.
So I'm kind of getting there, right? Yep. Where I'm going to have those bifocals like the rest of you guys.
I'm going to be honest with you. Don't let him fool you. We're all pretty daggone close to you.
Yeah. I try to play younger.
Yeah, he's trying to play younger.
That's why I keep cutting my beard a little shorter, get more gray out of it. So no, that's a really good cigar. Have you smoked it? Maybe you have. It just came out, so maybe you haven't had a chance to. Maybe you haven't had any of the Freud cigars. But if you have, let us know what some of those notes are.
Yeah.
Because we're kind of, this might be a little bit slow start of an episode because we're all trying to figure out what we're tasting there.
Definitely a nuttiness to it.
There's always a nuttiness for you, Dan. You're just a nutty kind of guy.
It's me. But no, I mean, it's strong. It's I don't, you taste nuttiness from time to time in a cigar, but this one, whatever flavor that is, it's like right in the front. And
I'm wondering if that's going to go away when we get to that first third. When we get down to that first third, I'm really enjoying this. This is a good cigar.
I'm also impressed by how good it's smoking.
Yeah, it's stacked. Yeah, it's smoking really well.
It's a tight
great draw.
It's
a tight what? Tight ash? Yeah. And it's stacking really well. I mean, you talk about stacking dimes with that ash. You're a little bit ahead of me on yours because you're always smoking faster than the rest of us. But
sweet, little sweetness to it to me.
You picking up a little sweet? Haven't got there yet. Interesting. So here's a question. What would you do if we all lit these cigars and you were like, that's trash? Have you had a cigar that you were excited about?
Like really horrible?
Well, yeah. I mean, let's hold on before we have you had a cigar that you were excited about and you lit it, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, that was terrible." I'm gonna get to you in a second. We're gonna talk about. I want this on YouTube, our conversation here in just a second. But what about you, Steve?
Of course, you've had cigars I don't like, but if it's really bad, then I'll just kick it to the curb.
Yeah.
But if it's so, I'll fight through it. You spend your money on it.
Yeah, right.
Plus, it might pick up. It might get better. Sometimes
Yeah.
they change for the first third, second third,
Yeah.
third.
Yeah. And for the money, I mean, this was $16, $17 cigar, which is a little bit pricey. That gets up into more of the finer cigars. I'd be really disappointed in this one if it was a real.
Boy, cigars, they're hot there.
They are pretty
They're
high
high.
priced. Yeah, they are pretty high priced. So we had let's get to the story, Dan. Dan's birthday was this last week, and I've said it on our very first episode. My favorite cigar is the Don Carlos Aniversario and by Fuente, and it's a unique cigar. It's not your normal cigar. And they're not cheap. They're in the $30 to $35 price range, depending on the size you get. And I don't smoke them very often, maybe once every other month. But I gave Dan one for his birthday because I like to give good cigars for birthdays.
Apparently, it wasn't a good cigar.
And it was. What was your thoughts on it, Dan?
Okay, so it is all Dominican, which I know my last one was as well. But I don't know. You had hyped it up so much.
Hey, I do that a lot.
And I was like, no, it's fine. But
I should have warned you.
and I started smoking it, and I'm just like, it's not wowing me. It's not, it's not like, oh my gosh, my new top 10. It wasn't a bad. I would not put that in a bad cigar.
Right.
Because it wasn't a bad cigar by any stretch, but it wasn't my favorite.
And those first few draws of it are a little bit. I mean, they're a little bit punchy. They're it mellows after the first. Yeah.
I do like heady pepper and stuff like that. I could definitely get into that. But it just wasn't wowing me.
Yeah.
Like other cigars.
I think one of the things I like about it is it stands out from other cigars. Especially when I was working in the industry, I'd smoke so many cigars a day. 3, 4, 5 cigars a day. They all blend together sometimes.
I had it in a while.
Palate gets burned.
What's the notes on that? Was it like real leathery?
There's some leather to it. There's some pepperiness to it. There's some a little bit of earthy, tones to it as well. But it's completely Dominican, and there's some unique Dominican notes there to it. That's really.
So was the Opus X.
To me, it's very similar to an Opus X, and that's one of the reasons I like it. I'm a big Opus fan, and it's enough like an Opus X that it reminds me of that, but it's different. It stands out a little bit.
Opus X is in my top 2.
Yeah. Which one? I mean, there's a lot of different. I mean, spot there, but yeah.
I don't even remember. I've never thought of it. It's just that whole line. If there's an Opus X on the shelf, because we don't get those very often in our lounge. There's one on the shelf.
Yeah, Lost Cities have been out quite a bit lately on the shelf, and they're good. Yeah. To me, that's kind of the entry level
lower tier
of the Opus X. Yeah,
because they range. They do.
Yeah,
you can get more expensive.
Yeah.
We
need to do an Opus X episode. That's coming. We're going to do an entire episode. We're all going to smoke Opus X. It's going to be a longer episode.
Yeah,
because we want to finish those cigars. If you don't know this, we generally, as we film these 30-minute episodes, we're not finishing the cigar because we're going on to filming another episode or whatever. And so we don't get to enjoy the full cigar. That one, we're going to enjoy the full cigar.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that'd be a fun episode.
If we do an Opus X, we got to do a God of Fire episode.
Yeah.
That's my top 2.
Yeah, and that brings up a really good point. If you would like to see us do a themed episode, drop it in the comments, and we'd love to do it. I mean, we're doing these every week. We need a lot of ideas. So if you've got some great ideas of a theme or whatever, just don't tell us to smoke flavored cigars. We're all past that. We may do one of those and surprise you, but I doubt it. We'll go with there.
What is his next birthday present?
But if he keeps making fun of my Don Carlos, you're going to get you a Groovy Blue for your next birthday. But if you make it there.
Don't threaten me, Richard.
That was dark. Why'd I go dark? That was real dark.
Well, check my whole set.
Oh man. Anyways, let's move on. So let's say you do get a bad cigar. What makes a cigar bad? There's the flavor side of it, and that's all. Yeah, that's all personal though, right? That's subjective. So what? But what? Just generally that clearly I like the Don Carlos. It's not your favorite. That's fine. That doesn't necessarily make a cigar bad. What makes a bad cigar? What we've talked about draw in other episodes, like that kind of thing. What makes a bad cigar?
I mean, draw is a little unfair because you can get a bad draw on a good cigar.
Mm-hmm.
But draw does play a part because, and I have thrown away a cigar because of draw before. You just can't get it open.
Yeah.
It does happen. But I think flavor is probably, for me, flavor and sometimes smokability. Because if I'm having to relight it every time I pick it up, and I'm
Should be overhumidified or underhumidified.
yeah, I mean, there isn't one, and again, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad cigar.
You're having a bad experience with that cigar.
Yeah, there's a couple of popular cigars. I don't want to mention names.
Yeah, let's not.
But there's a couple of no,
don't put anybody on blast.
no, because
Just him, not us. Not us.
there's a popular.
We love you, Fuente.
really popular cigar that I tried because everybody was ramping up cigar aficionado, and to me it was a bad cigar. I just didn't care for it, and I actually kind of judged the brand because I didn't have the brand for a while because I was like, I'm not into that, and I decided, you know what, that's kind of stupid. I need to try other blends that they do, and the second one I had, not bad, but
I remember this story. We talked about that. Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
and I actually have another one that I'm going to smoke that I just bought. I'll smoke it in a few weeks and we'll see what it looks like. But,
Well, how many times, though, have you had a cigar that you considered bad, it didn't reach your palate, later on down the line, you smoke it again and you like it?
yes.
Yeah.
Your palate changes.
Yeah.
I used to like that pepper hitting your really. Yeah, I was starting to like it.
Yeah, in our Lancero episode, I mentioned the H99, and that was exactly the first H99. I was like, this is not a good cigar, which surprised me because I love everything from Liga so far. And then the second one I had was great, and I think it was the palate. It just hit me. Maybe it was what I'd eaten that day. Maybe it was what I was drinking with it that made a big difference. You're right.
I told you not to drink milk with your
right. Yeah, milk and cigars don't mix. I've never done that. But yeah, chocolate milk. No.
But, sometimes, I mean, I know years ago I would smoke a certain brand and was like, oh yeah, I like these. I can't get them very, very often, but I like these. And then a few years later I had one and I was like, I will never smoke this again.
Yeah.
Because it was just like, because your palate does grow, as you smoke, and as you smoke more and you get more like, hey, I like this. I like Nicaraguan, for example. And you get to where you do have a favorite.
Mm-hmm.
blend.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're comparing everything else to that. And it's like, that just.
And then what happens when, like we're going to pick on you a little bit more, the Nicaraguan cigars that you love to smoke, what happens when Nicaragua has a really bad growing year, and they don't get enough sun or they get, not enough rain, whatever. And as much as the cigar manufacturers do their best and they do a phenomenal job of creating consistency in that, the crops are different every year.
Yeah.
And so you might get a cigar from one year that was your favorite cigar, and then the next year you're like, man, this blend of it's not at all what I want, and it's totally different. For me, I mean, I smoke such a wide variety of cigars. It's not as much the palate because like we've said, sometimes it's just the day. It's what you've eaten, it's what you're drinking, it's the environment, and it might not hit you the same as if you smoked it the next day. So I try and get through the palate side of it a little bit more. For me, it's the construction. It's the draw issues. It's the humidified, or the under humidified, won't stay lit. Or if you've got where you cut it and you get a little stem, sticks and stems, and you pull that out and you're just like, holy cow, there's a stick inside my cigar, or it cracks or whatever. On the job, I'm gonna tell on myself. I did have a Don Carlos yesterday on the job. I was working down outside of Houston in Baytown, and I had a hoodie on and I had a cigar in my pocket. I was frustrated and I sat down and I'm outside working and I sat down to just take a moment to think, and I pulled that cigar out of my pocket to light it, and I had sat down on the cigar. And so there was a little bit of bend in the cigar, and I thought, it's smokable. And as soon as I lit it, just this crack just went right down the side. And I thought, there's nobody out here. So I kept smoking it, but that turned into a bad experience. I wish I wouldn't have taken that good of a cigar down there to smoke. But it was, sometimes it's a crack, or it's, a cigar's not been humidified correctly. You would just, or they unravel on you, or you cut it bad and it starts unraveling because you cut too far down the head. and now you got the wrapper unraveling on your lips, and it just makes a mess. And yeah,
Those are the ones I usually just put out. But if it's some palate issue, I usually just fight through it. I usually fight through it.
Because, like I said, you never know.
Might change.
Yeah. Have you guys had a Pappy Van Winkle cigar from Drew Estate? Those literally right behind the band are completely different wrappers. I mean, everything changes. And that's one of those ones where you really have to like the cigar in the first 2/3, and then it changes drastically in that last third. And if you get the last third, it really becomes a really, really good cigar. But there's a lot of that Kentucky Fire cured in it, and so it's hard to get through it at first. And for that expensive of a cigar,
That's the last cigar I remember just like, I'm done.
yeah.
I did not like it.
Yeah, I'm curious. I mentioned it in a previous episode that Jake Wyatt Icarus that's coming out is a Tennessee Fire cured, so it's going to be very similar to a Kentucky Fire cured, I'm sure.
Get some Jack game?
We'll have to see. Get some Jack with it, and we'll talk about that in an upcoming episode.
This is turning toward more of a medium mild to me.
Is it really? Yeah. I mean, I'm really enjoying the cigar. This is something I will go back to, and I'm not trying to bash Freud cigars with the others, but for the price point, I would touch this. I would smoke this again long before I've hit any of the other Freuds that I've had. And those are good cigars too, but this is a really solid, really good cigar.
And that flavor of it has stayed.
Yeah.
Consistent.
Yeah. So, hey, one other thing we want to talk about in this episode is cutters. So, on the table in front of me, you probably can't see it very well on the screen, but we've got a plethora of cutters on this table. So, a couple things I want to talk about are there's three main types of cutters. You have a straight cut, which is, we've talked about cutting cigars in previous episodes of what we used in that episode. You have a V cut, and you have a punch. And so I want to just show you some basic examples of those types of lighters. So this is your standard straight cut lighter, a guillotine lighter. It's a 2-blade. And basically when you use a cutter like this, it's going to cut your cigar in a straight across. This one, I cut it with a dull cutter, so it's a little bit messy. But it just cuts your cigar straight across. There's a lot of different versions. This is a 2-blade guillotine. That's a real standard. This is what I like to call my Batwing. It's a spring-loaded 2-blade guillotine. Really cool cutter. You have scissor cutters, which is what I cut this with. These need to be sharpened. That's a straight cut as well. And just tons of cutters that fit that description. Then you have the V-cut. And on this one, in the V-cut, you can kind of see as you look into where the cigar goes, when you cut it, these guys both did a V-cut on theirs. And it creates a V channel into the cigar. And what that does for the cigar, a couple different things. The cap on the cigar remains more intact. You cut a V down the middle of it, so you get a little bit of on there still, but that deeper V gives you a cooler draw and a more even burn if you get that V cut right. A lot of guys will take that V cut on a bigger cigar and do a V one way and a V the other and create an X on top of their cigar. The other way is through a punch. And what a punch is a circular hole that it punches in the end of the cigar. And a lot of lighters will come with punches on the bottom. A couple of our lighters on the table have punches on them. This is a draw tool that has one on it. And you've got a unique cutter over there that I absolutely love.
This is a Calibre, and it actually has your straight cut and a V cut as well as punch. So no matter what you're smoking, you can cut that cigar.
Yeah, and that's a wonderful type of cutter. I've got one. Where did it go? You've got one right there. I left mine back there. Yeah, he's got one. This is a Calibre as well. It's got a V on one side and a straight on the other. It's a really deep V. And so you've got a lot of options when it comes to cutting your cigars. Now, one of the reasons I've got so many cutters out on the table, because I want to show you something really important. When you walk into a cigar lounge and you go to buy your first cutter, your first lighter, you can spend a ridiculous amount of money. Some of these cutters, I don't know on the table here what the most expensive one is, but you can go from a $3 or $4 cutter. I don't have one of my cheap ones out. You can go from a little $3 or $4 plastic cutter to a really high-end expensive. My scissor cutter, I think I paid $80 for my scissor cutter. and that triple cutter's a $100 cutter. So you can walk into a cigar lounge and look at all that and think, my gosh, this is going to get expensive, and it will if you let it. But the reason I've got all these cutters on the table, I want to show you something. This cutter is a bottle opener. It's from Drew Estate. I got it at an event. It's got kind of a scissor style cutter, single blade on the end of it. This was given to me at an event. And a lot of events, you can get things, swag, if you will, that are cutters and lighters. This is a Monte Cristo, one of my favorite cutters. Actually, this is my sharpest cutter. It's a double-bladed guillotine that I got with a cigar pack. This one was another Drew Estate one that I got. That's called a perfect cutter. You can see that one side is closed off, and with a double-bladed guillotine, you can set your cigar in there and cut it, and it gives you a perfect cut. That's great for beginners. Those all were cutters, including this one, that a Cigar one, that if you bought one of these is a $40 to $50, $60 cutter. All of those I got free at events when I bought cigars. Now, you're going to spend some money on those cigars, but you have cigars to smoke. But all of those were gifts, free gifts for purchasing cigars. I know a lot of the online retailers will do a special where you'll get an ashtray and a lighter or a cutter or whatever with your purchase. Take advantage of those, especially in the beginning. You don't have to spend your entire paycheck on buying accessories. Now, I think as you get into the hobby, you're going to want to do that. You're going to want to get a little bit better cutter. You're going to want to get a better lighter. But realize there is a plethora of cutters out there, a wide variety of differences. And the key is finding the kind you like. These guys like to V-cut. Right now I'm on a straight cut kick. I don't know why. I was V-cutting for a long time. I was punching for a long time. And I just kind of go through phases. That's why I've got so many different cutters, is because I kind of go through different phases of when I want to cut different things. And so try the different stuff out and take advantage of events. Every cigar lounge I know has events. It's a good way to get revenue and to get people into your cigar lounge that may have not been there before, and introduce them to new brands or different brands or whatever. Take advantage of those events. Omerta does a great job here in South OKC of throwing amazing events. We're going to Smokelahoma in a few weeks or a month or so, and they do a great job of having giveaways and different things that you can get. Take advantage of those. And we'll talk about lighters in another episode, but that rule applies to lighters as well. You don't have to spend a lot of money to get a good quality lighter or cutter.
Yeah, and you're talking about, I mean, a lot of people, the first thing they do is they get the cheap cutter. It's just made of plastic.
It's fun.
And it is. It's a great place to start. Don't like you said, don't feel like you can, but also understand that these will go bad.
Yeah, they get dull.
They get dull, and you don't want to use a dull.
Yeah, because you can make a mess like I did today.
Leads to that bad cigar we talked.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And you'll find that pretty
yeah.
And usually if you buy more expensive cutters or you get better cutters, you'll find that they last.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. But it's always good to have a handful of these cheaper ones on hand too, because what I like to do with the cheaper ones is when I go on vacation. So that's if I've got it in my checked luggage, I don't have some baggage handler stealing a $100 cutter. If they get my cutter, it's a $5 cutter, and I can go pick one up when I get
that. And if I have new friends getting into it,
you pass those off. Yeah. And that's one of the beautiful things about the cigar world is helping each other out and passing those things off. Matter of fact, I think in Houston I left one of my cutters at the lounge down there. I'm not going to mention the name, but I'm gonna come back for it. I promise. No, I'm not. But yeah, that's the world of cutters. If you've got a favorite cutter that you like to use, put it in the comments below. Maybe you're a straight V-cut. You're always doing V-cut. That's all you're doing. Maybe you're always punching. Tell us about that. And maybe you've had a bad experience with one of those style cutters. The reason I almost never punch anymore is because I had 2 back-to-back bad experiences with punching a cigar. It was a heavy cigar, very nicotine-heavy cigar. I believe both were Maduros. I punched one and started smoking it, and that we've mentioned this before. I'm a wet smoker. I get a lot of saliva on the end of my cigar, but that nicotine and the saliva mixed and became tar. And if you've ever had one tar up on you on a punch, that's the worst tasting thing you've ever had in your mouth. And I had one do that, and it was about a week after a buddy of mine said, "Hey, be careful when you're punching because you might get tarred up a little bit." The very next cigar I lit, I punched it, and the exact same thing happened. And I didn't punch another cigar for like 3 years. And I've done it a few times, and it's mostly out of necessity. I forgot my cutter, but my lighter had a punch on it. that kind of thing. But each one has its pros and cons. Give us your opinion. Tell us what you think about that in the comments below. Anything else on cutters or any other notes you want to share about these cigars that we're smoking right now? These,
You get any licorice?
is that what I'm getting?
To me, it's like a mixture of licorice, floral, kind
Kind of weird. Yeah.
weird.
Yeah. It's good. I'm enjoying that. Yeah. Licorice. Yeah. We're gonna have to talk one of these days about all the reviews online.
Marshmallow. I got
Burnt marshmallow.
I'm getting bone grass.
Yeah.
Tastes like bone grass. If you've tasted bone grass, I guess you know what that tastes like.
Yeah, I don't know either. But this Carlos Maria, I'll smoke it again.
Yeah.
That's definitely something I'm gonna go back to. Let's get into scripture. There's a really neat text I want us to look at today. It's in the Gospel of Matthew. It comes at the end of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. I absolutely love the Sermon on the Mount text, which is Matthew 5, 6, and 7. So we're going to look at Matthew 7, starting in verse 15 and go through 23. And this is just a really awesome text. It says this, watch out for false prophets, which is a real fun way to start our conversation today. Watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves. By their fruit you will recognize them. Do people pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Likewise, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus by their fruit you will recognize them. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only he who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons and perform many miracles? Then I will tell them plainly, I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers. This text is a scary text. When I've preached it, when I've taught it in church, I have said this is to me the scariest text in the Bible. Can you imagine standing at Judgment Day, standing before the Lord? Your life is done, whether it's because of the second coming or you've passed away and you're standing before the Lord, and he says this to you, not everybody will say to me, or not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but many will say on that day, that, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name and in your name drive out demons and perform many miracles? And then I will tell them plainly, I never knew you. I mean, that's a scary thought. I mean, my mind goes to, Lord, didn't I preach a whole bunch of sermons in your name? Didn't I teach Sunday school in your name? Didn't I tell a lot of people about you? Didn't I do this? Didn't I do that? Maybe I'm not a prophet. Maybe I'm not doing miracles. But what are your thoughts on this? Does that
mean there's people that do that, but outside of there, they don't really know Jesus, don't have a relationship with Jesus?
Yeah.
Is that what it's saying?
I mean, that's when
I never knew you.
Yeah. I mean, didn't we prophesy in your name? Didn't we drive out demons in your name? That's doing things in the name of the Lord. But Jesus is like, I don't even know who you are. And that's not that God doesn't know everything. It's just, I don't even know what you think you were doing.
So
that's scary though.
When I read that scripture, and I know the way, I know the way it sounds and the way it was read. But for me, it's almost one of those things, where somebody's going, and didn't I do all these things? And Jesus is like, yeah, but I didn't know you.
We never had a relationship.
They never knew I didn't get to know you.
Yeah.
And I think the whole purpose of that passage, to me, the whole purpose of that passage is to say the relationship has to come first. Everything you do has to come out of the relationship in Jesus. Because if you don't, it's a religion. It's a way of doing things.
It was like a job.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It was a job.
Yeah.
It's a ticket out of
Yeah.
hell. You're just looking for an opportunity, or maybe it's a club you want to join on.
Yeah.
But there's no relationship there. There's no basis or there's no backing there. I mean, you can study the Bible all you want and know everything, every jot and tittle in there.
Yes. Yeah.
But if you don't have that relationship,
It's probably easy to fall that trap too. Treat it as a job and not.
Yeah. Yeah, and I a lot of stuff when we start talking about relationship always takes me back to my marriage. We all three of us are married men. All three of us have been married quite a while. Jennifer and I are celebrating 25 years this year. Very proud of that. And for me, I could come home and do the dishes every day. I don't. She's going to get on to me for that. I could come home and do the dishes every single day. And I could bring her flowers. I could do all these things to show her love. But if I don't tell her I love her, if I don't sit and listen to her when she talks about her day, if I don't hold her hand, if I don't show affection, if I don't do all these things, then it's kind of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, okay, you gave me flowers, but do you love me? You did the dishes, but do you really like? It all goes hand in hand. Now, those are signs of affection. Those are signs of love. But sitting and listening and just being present is important too. And I think that goes into that relationship with God. It is, you can go to church every time the doors are open, but have zero relationship with Him. You can even teach the Bible in a Sunday school class because you know it as a textbook, but to apply it and let it impact your life and how you live.
Things and apply it to.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think the key is the first part of that text. So often because, my fear, I guess, of that last statement, depart from me, I never knew you. We missed that first part where he says, when he talks about a good tree and a bad tree, a good tree is going to bear good fruit and a bad tree is going to bear bad fruit, and you'll know them by their fruit. If you have a relationship with Jesus, it's going to be obvious. You're going to be different. You're going to love in a different way than the world loves. You're going to be accepting in a different way than the world accepts. You're going to go against the norm. You're going to be countercultural in the way that you live your life because that's the fruit that's bared out from that relationship with Jesus. Thoughts on that? I keep ashing on myself. I do. The first band is off. I'm smoking through it. It's good. It's good. But thoughts on bearing fruit. What does that look like in our lives?
I think bearing fruit. See, you have to be careful because I've been to churches where the pastor will have people stand up if he led them to Christ that week or something. It's like, okay, this is a popularity contest.
You get into that showiness.
But if I think the true fruit is leading people to Christ in a meaningful way, and it may be leading people to Christ who wouldn't, it may have been a unique situation. You might have.
Yeah.
And nobody knows about it.
Yeah.
It's not, there's no show.
Yeah.
You can impact people's lives throughout your day and really never see the rewards of it.
Yeah.
But they see in you how you act.
Which is the key, which leads people to Christ. I mean, that's the key in all of it is those fruits of the Spirit that we see later in Paul's writings, the peace, patience, love, kindness, all those things that Roma Craft is named Cigars after, right? Yeah. That those are the things that become the fruit that people see, that draw them in, that give you the cred to witness to them and tell them about the gospel.
We don't know it. Jesus knows it. God knows it. He sees the fruit that we bared.
Yeah, absolutely. Good discussion, guys. I like that. And so our encouragement to you today is don't examine the fruit of somebody else. Examine your fruit. Examine what's going on in your life. We can sit back in our armchairs and go, well, that person there, I'm looking at their life and that person there. Don't do that. Look at your own life and say, okay, is my life bearing fruit? Am I a loving person? Am I a peaceful person? Am I a caring person? Am I a hospitable person? Am I patient? Am I all those things that we see in the fruits of the Spirit? And is that producing people knowing God? Is the result of that people seeing that and going, okay, I need to know more about you and why? And are you bold enough to talk about God?
Does it also say, correct me if I'm wrong, but we can do all kind of good things, bear the fruit, but sometimes for myself, I don't concentrate on myself sometimes, my own relationship with God.
Yeah.
I'm so worried about other people, praying for other people, but I don't have...
Yeah. That's a really good point. Jesus at one point talks about this idea of he's the vine and we're the branches. And that in that he says, remain in me and I'll remain in you. And that, that's key is if we focus on just the branch and we focus on what the branch is doing, we forget the vine, and we've got to remain in the vine to remain connected.
I get caught worrying about other people so much that I don't take time for myself. So I'm trying to work on that.
Yeah.
My own relationship, my own.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you've got to be healthy in your relationship to be able to help others. Absolutely. That's a very good point. Very good point. Anything else? You guys at home, dig into this text. Look at it yourselves. Own it yourself and apply it to who you are and how you're living your life and see what God reveals to you, and let us know in the comments about that. So, all right, guys, the Carlos and Maria. Fantastic. We give it thumbs up, I think. This is a good cigar. Go smoke it. Go enjoy it. See if your local shop has it. If not, suggest that they get them. And if they don't have them, I know you can call Omerta. You can call other shops around and see who's got it, and we'll make sure we can get one out to you or whatever. And so, yeah, give it a try. That's a solid cigar. I'm not gonna say it's in my top 5, but it may be in my top 10. It's close. I mean, it's up there. I'm gonna try to smoke a couple more, and see the consistency across the brand before I give it that high of a spot. But it's definitely up there. Definitely up there. So
is it better than Don Carlos?
In my opinion, yes.
Just, man, I feel betrayed. I feel betrayed. Yeah, maybe you've given somebody a birthday present, like you gave them a blender or you gave them something, and then you find out that they never used it, or they gave it back to you, they regifted it, and they didn't know you're the one who gave it to them or whatever. That's kind of how I'm feeling right now. Feeling betrayed a little bit there, Dan. It's all good, man. You like what you like, and that's all right. That's all right. I'll give you a Gurkha next time. That's another story for another day.
Nothing wrong with Gurkha. Nothing wrong.
Yes, there is. Yeah. Good for you. You smoke all the good.
We know who's not a sponsor now.
Yeah, that's all right. That's fine with me. That's fine with me. All right, guys. As we're wrapping it up, just a reminder that we want you to
tickle the bell icon to be notified when new videos drop.
Yeah,
please like the videos.
Yeah, like the videos.
Videos.
Share the videos.
You got any prayer requests? We'd love to pray for you.
Yeah,
absolutely. Drop those in the comments below, or send us a private message if you don't want it out there publicly. We understand that.
If there's a new cigar you try, though maybe we haven't.
Yeah. Send us some requests, and we'll see what we can do. So, with all that said, enjoy a fine cigar to the glory of God.